Captain Park had served in space for 20 years. He had seen alien worlds with purple skis. He had walked on moons made of ice. He had fought pirates near the rings of Saturn, but he had never seen fear like this before. Ambassador was a creature made of living crystal. Her body was clear like glass, and light moved inside her like slow fire. She had 6 eyes, and all 6 of them were wide with terror. Her hands shook as she pointed at the star map floating in the middle of the room. "You must understand, Captain," she said. Her voice sounded like wind blowing through bells. "This is not a request. This is not a warning. This is the truth of our universe. Sector 99 is death. No ship enters. No ship leaves. This has been law for 10,000 years." Leaned back in his chair. The meeting room on Space Station Harmony was cold, and he could hear the soft hum of machines all around them. 3 other alien ambassadors sat at the long table. None of them would look at the star map. They kept their eyes down, like children afraid of the dark. "Tell me about the dragon," said. The room went silent. One of the ambassadors, a tall creature with gray skin and no mouth, stood up and left. He did not say goodbye. He simply walked out, his long legs carrying him quickly through the door. Closed 4 of her 6 eyes. "The dragon has existed since before time was counted. Our oldest records speak of it. The empire, which ruled 1,000 worlds before my species learned to make fire, they sent their greatest fleet to study it. 300 ships, 50,000 soldiers, the best weapons of their age. What happened? Nothing came back, not one ship, not one message, not one body. Its crystal form flickered with dark colors. The empire fell into civil war after that. They never recovered. They blamed each other for the loss. Within 200 years they were gone." Lieutenant sat beside. She was young, only 32, but she was the officer he had ever worked with. Her fingers moved across her tablet, pulling up old files and ancient records. "Sir," she said quietly, "I'm counting 47 recorded incidents. 47 different species tried to enter Sector 99. All of them failed. The most recent was the Empire, 800 years ago." "What did they send?" "A diplomatic vessel, unarmed. They wanted to talk, to understand." Looked up from her tablet. "They received 1 transmission back, 3 minutes of silence, then screaming, then nothing." Felt cold, but he did not show it. A captain never showed fear to others. And no one knows what the dragon actually is. In 10,000 years, no one has learned anything. Ambassador moved closer. Her crystal body made soft clicking sounds as she walked. "We know it guards something. The graveyard of ships around its territory proves this. We know it is intelligent. It has spoken before in languages that burned the minds of those who heard them. And we know it is angry, always angry, a rage that has lasted longer than stars." "Then why tell us now?" asked. "Humans have only been part of the Galactic Council for 30 years. We are young, we are small. Why share this secret with us?" The remaining ambassadors looked at each other. Their fear turned into something else, something like shame. Spoke slowly, "Because the dragon is moving." The words hung in the air like poison. "Moving," repeated. "Moving where?" "Toward populated space, toward the Helix colonies." His voice cracked like breaking glass. "For the first time in recorded history, the dragon has left its territory. It is flying toward us, slowly but surely. In 18 months it will reach the Helix colonies." Knew those colonies. 40 billion people lived there. Humans, aliens, families, children, farms and cities and schools and hospitals. 40 billion lives going about their days, not knowing that death was coming. "What is the Council's plan?" he asked. "Evacuation," said. "We will try to move as many people as possible, but we cannot save everyone. The ships do not exist. The time does not exist. We expect to save perhaps 10 billion. The rest will die." "That's 30 billion people." "Yes. And no one will fight." Laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Fight what, Captain? A creature that has destroyed every fleet ever sent against it. A being that has killed millions of ships over millions of years. We are not warriors against the dragon. We are insects. Stood up. He walked to the star map and looked at the red zone marking Sector 99. It was huge, stretching across a part of space that would take months to cross. And somewhere in that red darkness, something ancient was waking up. There must be another option, he said. There is no other option. His crystal body turned dark blue, the color of sadness. The Council has decided. Evacuation begins in 1 week. We suggest you move your colony ships away from the Helix region. Save who you can, mourn who you cannot. The meeting ended. The ambassadors left one by one, their heads low, their spirits broken. Only and remained in the cold room, staring at the star map. Sir said after a long silence, "What are you thinking?" Did not answer right away. He was looking at the red zone, at the path the dragon was taking, at the small blue dots representing human colony ships heading toward the Helix region. His wife's sister lived on one of those colonies. She had 2 children, ages 6 and 9. They liked to send him video messages about their pet dog and their school projects. "I'm thinking," he said slowly, "that the Council has been afraid for 10,000 years. They've built their laws around fear. Their entire civilization is shaped by running away from this thing. Can you blame them? 47 species tried to fight. All of them died. 47 species attacked. That's different. Turned to face her. Has anyone ever tried to talk to it, really talk to it, not as enemies but as equals? Frowned, the tried diplomacy. They died screaming. The sent one ship 800 years ago. We don't know what they said. We don't know how they approached. Eyes were bright now, alive with something dangerous. Everyone treats this creature like a monster, but what if it's not? What if it's something else entirely? Sir, with respect, this is insane. Probably, smiled, but there was no humor in it. But 30 billion people are going to die if we do nothing. The Council has given up. They've accepted death as the only answer. He looked back at the star map. Humans don't accept death. We fight it. We rage against it. We find ways around it. And if there is no way around, then we die trying. But we die with our eyes open, facing forward, not running away. Walk toward the door. Start putting together a volunteer crew. I want people who understand the risks. People who are willing to do the impossible. Where are we going? Stopped at the door. He looked back at the red zone on the star map, at the forbidden space that had swallowed civilizations. We're going to talk to a dragon, he said, and we're going to find out why it's so angry. He walked out of the room, leaving alone with the star map and the weight of what was coming. She sat in the silence for a long moment, thinking about fear and courage and the thin line between them. Then she picked up her tablet and started making calls. The captain had given an order, and Lieutenant always followed orders, even when they led to dragons. The ship was called the, named after an ancient Korean creature that was said to eat fire and protect the innocent. It was the most advanced vessel humanity had ever built. Fast engines, strong shields, weapons that could cut through asteroids. But as it crossed the invisible line into Sector 99, all that technology felt like nothing at all. Captain Park stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, his crew worked in tense silence. Every person here had volunteered. Every person here knew they might never see home again. Chief Engineer Bay watched her screens with careful eyes. She was a small woman with short gray hair and hands that had fixed 1,000 machines. "All systems normal, Captain," she reported. "Shields at full power. Engines ready for emergency jump if needed." "Good," said. "Keep watching. I want to know the moment anything changes." Navigation officer sat at the front of the bridge, guiding the ship through the empty space. He was the youngest member of the crew, only 25, but his skills were beyond his years. "We're following the old star charts, sir. The ones recovered from the wreckage. If they were right, We should reach the outer boundary of the dragon's territory in 6 hours. Lieutenant stood beside, her face calm but her eyes alert. She had spent the last 3 weeks studying every piece of information about Sector 99. Old stories, ancient warnings, scientific data, religious texts, anything that might help them understand what they were walking into. "The Galactic Council sent us a final message before we crossed the border," she said quietly. "They said they will honor our sacrifice. They called us brave fools." "They're half right," replied. "We are fools but brave, that remains to be seen." The hours passed slowly. The crew ate meals at their stations, not wanting to leave their posts. They spoke in whispers as if loud voices might wake something sleeping in the darkness. Outside the windows, space looked the same as always, but it felt different, heavier, older. Then's voice broke the silence. "Captain, I'm picking up something ahead. Energy signatures, lots of them." "Show me." The main screen flickered to life, and the bridge fell completely silent. Ships, thousands upon thousands of ships. They filled the space ahead like leaves floating on a black ocean. Some were huge, the size of cities. Others were small, barely bigger than the itself. They came in every shape and color and design. Organic ships that looked like giant sea creatures. Metal warships covered in weapons. Crystal vessels that sparkled like diamonds. Ancient wooden ships wrapped in force fields. All of them were dead. All of them were empty. All of them were frozen in the void, waiting for nothing. The graveyard whispered, "It's real, it's all real." "My God," said Communications Officer Han, her hand over her mouth. "Some of these ships, the designs. I don't recognize most of them. They must be millions of years old." Walked closer to the screen. He studied the floating wrecks, the silent monuments to failed expeditions. Some ships were intact, preserved perfectly by the cold vacuum of space. Others were torn apart, their hulls ripped open like paper. Giant claw marks ran across metal surfaces. Burn patterns showed where weapons had fired uselessly against something far too powerful to stop. "The dragon doesn't just kill ships," observed. "It destroys them completely. Look at that one." She pointed to a massive warship, its entire front section missing. That was a destroyer. According to records, it carried enough firepower to crack a moon. The dragon tore it in half. "How many ships are here?" asked. Checked her readings. Thousands at minimum, maybe tens of thousands. The field extends for millions of kilometers in every direction. This isn't a graveyard, Captain. It's an ocean of the dead. They moved slowly through the floating wreckage, guided them carefully, avoiding the drifting hulks and debris. Everyone watched the windows, seeing the faces of the dead passing by. Alien bodies frozen at their stations. Escape pods that never made it out. Weapons that never fired. These ships came from every direction, noted. Every angle of approach. Some came openly with weapons hot. Others came hidden, trying to sneak past. Some came with armies. Some came alone. She shook her head. None of it mattered. The dragon killed them all. "Sir," said suddenly, "we're being scanned." Everyone froze. Zors asked. "Unknown. The scan is coming from everywhere at once. It's like the space itself is watching us." Fingers flew across her console. "I've never seen technology like this. It's reading everything. Our weapons, our shields, our life signs, our thoughts." She stopped, her face going pale. "Captain, I think it knows we're here." Before could respond, every screen on the bridge went dark. Then, slowly, words appeared. Not in any language the computer could recognize, but somehow perfectly clear to every person on the ship. The words burned themselves directly into their minds. "Turn back, last warning." The crew looked at their captain. Some were scared. Some were ready to run. All of them waited for his decision. Read the words again. "Turn back. Last warning." The same message that had greeted countless ships before them. The same words that marked the beginning of the end for 47 species. He said calmly, "Can you send a reply?" I think so, sir. The channel is open, it's waiting." Send this, we are not here to fight. We are not here to steal. We are here to talk. We come in peace and we ask only for conversation. Type the message with shaking hands. She sent it into the void. Seconds passed, then minutes. The crew held their breath. The reply came like thunder in their minds. Peace is a lie. All who come here bring war. You will die like the others. Send another message, said. Tell it, we are human. We are new to this galaxy. We have no history with you. We have no reason to lie. We are simply trying to understand. Again, the reply was fast and cold. Understanding is death. Knowledge is death. Turn back or die. Touched arm. Sir, maybe we should listen. We can't help anyone if we're dead. Looked at her. Then he looked at his crew, at their frightened faces, at the hope they were trying so hard to keep alive. He thought about 30 billion people in the Helix colonies. He thought about 2 children with a pet dog who called him uncle. No, he said. We didn't come this far to turn back at the first wall. Continue course. Take us deeper. Captain started. I know, interrupted. I know this might be the end, but I also know that everyone who came here before attacked first and asked questions never. We're going to do the opposite. We're going to keep asking questions until we get answers. He sat down in his captain's chair. Move forward slowly, carefully, but forward. They continued into the darkness, leaving the graveyard of ships behind. Ahead, sensors began to pick up something massive, something that made the scale of the graveyard look small, something that had been waiting for a very, very long time. His voice was barely a whisper. Captain, I'm detecting the source of the scan. It's directly ahead. And sir, it's the size of a small moon. Gripped the arms of his chair. Show me. The screen came to life again. And for the first time in their lives, the crew of the saw what a dragon looked like. It was magnificent. It was terrifying. It was beyond anything they had ever imagined. And it was looking right at them. The dragon was not what they expected. In their minds, they had imagined a beast made of fire and rage, something simple and savage, an animal with terrible power. What they saw instead was something far more strange and far more beautiful. It was alive, yes, but it was also a machine. Its body was a mix of flesh and metal, scales and circuits, bone and wire. It stretched across space like a god lying down to sleep. Its head alone was larger than any space station humanity had ever built. Eyes like burning suns looked down at the tiny ship floating before it. Each eye held intelligence, ancient and deep, watching them with something between curiosity and contempt. Wings spread out from its body, but they were not wings of flesh. They were sails made of light, catching energy from distant stars, stretching across thousands of kilometers. The wings glowed with soft colors, blues and greens and purples, shifting like the northern lights of Earth. Its tail was a weapon. Even from this distance, the crew could see energy crackling along its length. Lightning danced from scale to scale, building power that could shatter worlds. The tail moved slowly back and forth, like a cat watching a mouse. It's beautiful, whispered, and no one disagreed. Lieutenant pulled up every sensor reading she could find. The energy output is impossible. It's generating more power than a star. The materials in its body don't match anything in our databases. Some of them shouldn't exist according to physics as we know it. How old is it? Asked. I can't tell, sir. The carbon dating is all over the place. Parts of it seem to be millions of years old. Other parts seem to be brand new. Shook her head. It's like it's been rebuilding itself forever, replacing old parts with new ones. It might have been alive since the beginning of the universe. Chief Engineer stared at her screens with wide eyes. Captain, it's scanning us again, much deeper this time. It's reading our computer files, our personal logs, everything. She paused. It's reading our memories. The bridge crew felt a pressure in their minds, like fingers pressing against their thoughts. It was not painful, but it was deeply uncomfortable. Images flashed before their eyes, memories they had forgotten, secrets they had hidden. The dragon was learning them, studying them like specimens under glass. Then the pressure stopped. A voice filled the bridge. It did not come from the speakers. It came from everywhere at once, from the walls, from the air, from inside their own heads. The voice was deep and old, like mountains speaking, like oceans thinking. "You are different," the dragon said. "Your minds are strange. Your species is young. I do not recognize your pattern." Stood up from his chair. His crew looked at him, waiting. This was the moment. Everything depended on what happened next. "We are called humans," he said, speaking out loud even though he knew the creature could read his thoughts. Speaking felt more honest, more real. "We come from a small planet called Earth. We have only traveled the stars for a short time. We mean you no harm." All creatures say this. All creatures lie. They come with weapons. They come with arms. They come to kill and take and destroy. "We came with one ship," replied. "We have weapons, yes, but we have not fired them. We have not attacked. We only want to understand." The dragon's eyes narrowed. Its tail stopped moving, the energy building to dangerous levels. "Understand what?" "Why you are moving. Why you are leaving your territory after 10,000 years. Why you are heading toward places where billions of innocent people live." Silence. The crew held their breath. The dragon's massive form seemed to vibrate with something, perhaps anger, perhaps surprise. "You are very small creatures to ask such large questions." "Small creatures can still ask questions," said. "And sometimes, small creatures can see things that large creatures miss." "Explain." Walked closer to the front of the bridge, closer to the window where the dragon filled the entire view. "I studied the graveyard we passed through. Thousands of ships from dozens of species. Different time periods, different technologies, different approaches. But they all had one thing in common. They all died." "Yes, but look at where they came from," pointed at the star map on his screen. "They came from every direction except one. The ships approach from the galactic center, from the outer rim, from above and below. But none of them came from behind you, from the direction you were facing, the direction you were guarding." The dragon went completely still. "Those ships weren't attacking you," continued. "At least, not at first. They were running from something, and you killed them because you couldn't let them pass. You couldn't let them lead whatever was chasing them straight to what you were protecting." The silence stretched for what felt like hours. When the dragon spoke again, its voice was different, quieter, older, sadder. "You see more than the others saw. I'm not smarter than them. I just came here without assumptions. I came here to learn, not to fight." "And what have you learned, small human?" Took a deep breath. "I've learned that you're not a monster. You're a guard, a protector. You've been standing at this post for millions of years, killing anyone who came close because you had to. Not because you wanted to, but because the alternative was worse. Worse than death. Much worse." Looked directly into those massive burning eyes. "Something is coming. Something has always been coming. And you're the only thing standing between it and the rest of the universe." The dragon's wings folded slowly, like a bird settling down to rest. Its tail lowered, the energy fading to a gentle glow. And when it spoke again, the crew of the heard something they never expected to hear from a creature that had destroyed civilizations. They heard exhaustion, they heard loneliness, they heard relief. "For 10 million years I have guarded the door. For 10 million years I have killed all who approached, not from hate, not from anger, from duty." The dragon's eyes closed halfway. "No one has ever understood, no one has ever asked. They see me and the attack. They see me and they fear. So I kill them and I continue my watch and I am alone." "You don't have to be alone anymore," said quietly. "You do not know what you are saying. You do not know what waits behind the door." "Then tell me, help me understand. You've been carrying this burden alone for 10 million years. Maybe it's time to share it." The dragon opened its eyes fully. It looked at the tiny ship, at the tiny creatures inside, at the tiny captain who had done what no one else had ever done. Ask nicely. Very well, small human, I will tell you the truth, and when you hear it, you will wish you had turned back when I warned you. The dragon's mind reached out to theirs, and they saw everything. They saw the door. They saw what waited behind it. And for the first time in his life, Captain Park understood true fear. But he did not run. He stood on his bridge, surrounded by his crew, and he listened, because that was what they had come to do. And because running had never saved anyone. The dragon poured its memories into their minds like water into empty cups. 10 million years of history, of war, of endless watching. The crew of the saw it all, felt it all, lived it all in the space of a few heartbeats. They saw the beginning. Long ago, before the first stars learned to shine, there was a civilization. They had no name that could be spoken. They existed before names, before language, before the very idea of communication. They were the first ones, and they built wonders that would make the greatest achievements of the Galactic Council look like children playing with blocks. They built the dragon. Not as a weapon, not as a guard. They built it as a key. A living key to a living lock, meant to seal away something they had found at the edge of reality itself. Something that should never have existed. Something that ate not just matter but meaning. Not just life but the very concept of being alive. They called it the Hollow. The Hollow is not a creature, the dragon explained, its voice heavy with ancient grief. It is an absence, a hunger. It's CONSUMES everything ITTOUCHES, not by DESTROYNG it, but by making it never have EXISTED all. The crew saw images of worlds vanishing, not exploding, not burning, but simply ceasing to be. One moment a planet was there, full of life and history and meaning. The next moment it was gone. Not even empty space remained. Just nothing. A hole in reality that the universe tried desperately to fill but could not. The first ONES fought the Hollow for 1,000,000 years. They threw everything they had against it. Weapons, ARMIES, SACRIFICES. Nothing worked. The Hollow cannot be DESTROYED because it is not really there. It is the opposite of existence, the enemy of reality itself. How did they stop it? Asked. His voice was steady but his hands were shaking. They did not stop it. They trapped it. They built a door at the edge of space, a barrier between our reality and the void where the Hollow waits. And they built a me to guard THAT door, to keep it closed, to kill anyone who might accidentally open it. Lieutenant spoke up, her voice barely a whisper. What happened to the first ones? They are gone. The last of them used their remaining power to create me and seal the door. They knew they would not survive. They knew I would be alone, but they had no choice. The dragon's eyes dimmed with sadness. I was born into a universe where MYCREATORS were already dead. I have never known anything but loneliness and duty. The crew sat in stunned silence. 10 million years. 10 million years of standing guard, killing anyone who came close, watching civilizations rise and fall, never speaking to anyone, never having anyone understand. Why are you moving now? Asked. After all this time, why leave your post? Because the door is weakening. The dragon's voice dropped to something almost like fear. The Hollow has been pushing against it for millions of years. Slowly, patiently, it has been wearing down the seal. And every time a ship APPROACHED, every time a fleet ATTACKED, the Hollow SENSEDIT, it felt the life on the other side. It pushed harder. It WANTED to reach them. So you killed them to protect the door. Yes, every death hurt me. I am not a monster. I feel every life I take. But if even one ship had reached THE door, if the Hollow had sensed them up close, it would have broken free entirely. Chief Engineer raised her hand nervously like a student in class. You said the door is weakening. How bad is it? Bad, the hollow will break through soon. Perhaps a few hundred years, perhaps less. The dragon's tail twitched with nervous energy. I cannot hold the door and fight the hollow at the same time, so I must move. I must draw it away from the door, away from POPULATED space. I must find a place to make my final stand. The helix colonies are in your path, said. I know, I grieve for this, but there is no other way. The path I am taking is the only one that leads to empty space, the only place where I can die without taking the galaxy with me. Dai stepped forward. You expect to die. I am old, I am tired. The hollow has been draining my strength for millions of years. When it breaks free, it will come for me first. I am the greatest life it has ever seen, the greatest meal it has ever wanted. The dragon's eyes flickered. I will fight it, I will hurt it, but I will not win. And when I fall, nothing will stand between the hollow and the rest of existence. The bridge was silent. The crew understood now. The dragon was not their enemy. It never had been. It was a soldier fighting a war that had lasted since before time itself, and it was losing. What if you didn't fight alone? Asked. The dragon made a sound that might have been laughter. Alone? I have always been alone. It is all I know. But what if it wasn't? What if we helped? You, the dragon's eyes focused on the tiny ship. You are INSECTS. Your weapons could not scratch MYSCALES. Your shields would break like glass against the hollow's touch. What could you possibly do? Smiled, and there was something fierce in that smile, something stubborn, something very, very human. We could stand beside you, he said. We could fight with you even if we die. We could make sure you're not alone at the end. And maybe, just maybe, we could think of something you haven't thought of. Something new, something different. Impossible. I have been thinking for 10 million years. There is no solution. You've been thinking alone for 10 million years. Alone, with no one to talk to, no one to share ideas with, no one to challenge your assumptions. Spread his hands. Humans are young, yes. We are small and weak and foolish. But we are also creative. We are stubborn. We refuse to accept impossible. The dragon studied him for a long moment. Its ancient mind reached out, touching his thoughts, feeling his determination. You would die for strangers, for species you have never met, for a universe that has given you nothing but hardship. Yes. HFY. Thought about it. He thought about his crew, about his family, about the 2 children who called him uncle. He thought about all the people who would never know that a tiny ship had traveled to the edge of space to talk to a dragon. Because that's what humans do, he said finally. We face the impossible. We fight the unbeatable. We stand up for strangers, not because we think we'll win, but because it's right, because giving up is worse than dying. The dragon was silent for a very long time. When it finally spoke, its voice was different, softer, wondering. I had forgotten. I had forgotten what hope felt like. I had forgotten what it meant to not be alone. Let me remind you, said. Let us stand with you. Let us fight with you. And if we fail, at least you'll know that at the end, someone cared enough to try. The dragon's wings slowly unfolded, spreading across space like a sunrise. Its eyes burned brighter, and for the first time in millions of years, something like hope flickered in their depths. Very well, small human, I will accept your offer. I will teach you what I know, and together we will face the hollow. Captain Park nodded, feeling the weight of the universe settling on his shoulders. It was heavy. It was terrifying. But he was not alone. And neither was the dragon, not anymore. 6 months had passed since Captain Park returned from Sector 99. 6 months of arguing, planning, building, and hopping. 6 months that changed the galaxy forever. When the first returned to Space Station Harmony, no one believed them. Ambassador called it impossible. The Galactic Council called it a trick. Military leaders called it madness. A dragon that was actually a guardian. An ancient enemy older than stars, a door holding back the end of everything. It sounded like a story told to children, not a military briefing. Then the dragon itself came to speak. It appeared at the edge of council space, its massive form blocking out the light of 3 suns. Every defense fleet in the sector scrambled to attack, weapons locked on, orders were given to fire. And then the dragon spoke. It spoke to every mind in the region, showing them what it had shown, the truth. The first ones, the hollow, the door that was breaking, the death that was coming for them all. The council listened. For the first time in 10,000 years, they really listened. Now, 6 months later, the largest fleet ever assembled gathered at the edge of Sector 99. Ships from every species, every nation, every world that had anything to offer. Human destroyers flew beside battleships. Carriers held position next to crystal ships from people. Old enemies stood together, their differences forgotten in the face of something worse than any war. Commander Shin led the human forces from her flagship, She was a tall woman with silver streaks in her black hair and scars on her hands from a dozen battles. She had laughed when they first asked her to command this mission. Then she had said yes without hesitation. "All ships report ready," Lieutenant announced from this bridge. She had been promoted after their return, offered command of her own vessel. She had refused. Her place was here. Captain stood at his usual spot, hands behind his back, eyes forward. The dragon floated nearby, its massive form dwarfing even the largest dreadnoughts. 6 months ago, its presence would have caused panic. Now, ships flew formation around it like small birds around a mountain. "The door is breaking," the dragon announced, its voice reaching every ship in the fleet. "The hollow comes. This is the moment we have prepared for. This is the end or the beginning. I do not know which." "We know which," replied on the open channel. "This is the beginning of something new." Behind them, the hollow emerged. It was not a creature, it was not a thing. It was an absence, a tear in the fabric of reality itself. Space bent around it, twisted, screamed. Stars that had burned for billions of years went dark as it passed them. Light itself fled from its approach, and at its center there was nothing, not darkness, not emptiness, nothing. A void that the mind could not understand and the soul could not accept. "All ships hold formation," Commander ordered. "Remember your training, remember why we're here." The fleet did not run. For the first time in all of history, life stood its ground against the hollow. Ships fired weapons that had been designed using knowledge the dragon had shared. Energy beams wrapped in frequencies that could touch things between realities. Missiles carrying payloads of compressed existence, matter so dense it could not be erased even by the hollow's touch. The hollow screamed. It was a sound that had no sound, a feeling that ripped through every mind in the fleet. Pain, hunger, rage, it had waited so long, it had pushed so hard, and now finally it was free. It would consume everything. It would make the universe as empty as itself. "It's not working," someone shouted on the radio. "Our weapons are barely hurting it." Ships began to vanish. One by one, vessels touched by the hollow simply ceased to exist. Crews of thousands gone in an instant, not dead, not destroyed, erased, as if they had never been born at all. The dragon roared and threw itself at the hollow. Ancient power clashed against ancient hunger. The two forces met in an explosion of light and darkness that burned across space like a new sun being born. The dragon's claws tore at the hollow. The hollow's touch ate at the dragon. Both of them were dying. Both of them were too stubborn to stop. "Now," said quietly, "it has to be now." Chief Engineer activated the device they had built. It was humanity's secret weapon, created from an idea so simple that 10 million years of thinking had somehow missed it. The dragon had always tried to destroy the hollow. Every species that had ever faced it had tried to destroy it. But you cannot destroy nothing. You cannot kill an absence. So they didn't try to kill it. They gave it form. The device sent out a pulse of pure reality, concentrated existence wrapped in mathematical formulas that defined what it meant to be real. The pulse hit the hollow and wrapped around it like chains made of light. It didn't destroy the void. It filled it, forced matter into nothing, gave shape to shapelessness. The hollow screamed again, but this time the scream was different. It was not hunger, it was fear. For the first time in all of existence, the hollow had a body. For the first time, it was something instead of nothing. And something could be hurt, something could be killed, something could be beaten. "All ships fire everything," Commander roared. Every weapon in the fleet opened up at once. Beams and missiles and bombs rained down on the hollow's new form. The dragon, bleeding light from 1,000 wounds, struck with its tail, sending a bolt of energy that cracked the hollow's shape like glass. The battle lasted hours. Ships died by the hundreds. The dragon fell twice, each time rising again through sheer will. Crew members sacrificed themselves to buy seconds, ramming their vessels into the hollow's body, holding it in place for others to strike. And finally, impossibly, the hollow began to break. Cracks spread across its forced form. Reality poured in through the gaps. The universe itself rushed to fill the void, to heal the wound that had existed since before time began. The hollow's final scream was heard across the galaxy. It was heard on every world, in every mind, by every creature that had ever existed. It was the sound of nothing becoming something, of hunger becoming satisfied, of endings becoming beginnings. And then it was gone. The void was filled with debris and wreckage and the bodies of the brave. The dragon drifted among the human ships, its ancient body torn and bleeding starlight. But it was alive. Somehow, impossibly, it was alive. "It is done," the dragon said, its voice weak but filled with wonder. "The hollow is ended, the door is closed, the war is over." The surviving ships erupted in cheers. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years embraced each other. Tears flowed on every bridge, in every cockpit, in every corridor where survivors gathered to weep and laugh and hold each other. The dragon's great eyes turned toward the Tord, who stood on his battered bridge with his exhausted crew. "For 10 million years I guarded the door alone," the dragon said, its voice carrying to every ship, every soul, every corner of the galaxy. "I believed that hope was weakness. I believed that asking for help was failure. Today, a species younger than my youngest memory taught me otherwise. You did not come with weapons first. You came with questions. You came with respect. You came with an offer of friendship that I did not deserve and could not have imagined." Smiled, his uniform was torn. His face was covered in soot and sweat. He had never been more tired in his life. "We came because it was right," he said simply. "The galaxy warned you never to approach the dragon," the ancient being continued. "They said I was death. They said I was destruction. They said to stay away, but you did not listen. You approached anyway, and because of this, everything lives." Captain Park looked at his crew. He looked at the stars. He looked at the future that they had just made possible. "We're human," he said. "Approaching dragons is what we do." The dragon laughed, and for the first time in 10 million years, it was a happy sound. The war was over. The galaxy was saved. And in the silence between the stars, where the hollow had once waited hungry and patient, there was now only light. Light and the beginning of something wonderful. The end.